I just finished grading the Module 2 post-test, and I thought it was important to clarify the concepts of incidence and prevalence for you. Many people missed the test question on incidence and prevalence and chose the wrong answer. And while the majority of people chose incidence instead of prevalence, some people actually chose risk. And so I thought I would go over this so that you understand first that the correct answer was prevalence, and the prevalence rate is the proportion of the population affected by a disease at a specific point in time. But I also want to explain some methods in epidemiologic investigative process. Throughout your course of study, you are going to hear disease referred to in terms of the incidence rate and the prevalence rate. So it's important to understand these terms and to commit them to memory. The goal of an epidemiological investigation is to identify causal mechanisms of health and illness and to develop measures for preventing illness and promoting health. And in many ways, this is important. In fact, in every way, this is really important to your practice as clinicians. Incidence is all new cases of a disease or a health condition during a given time. It is the new people developing a disease over all of those at risk of a given disease. So if we take cervical cancer as an example, you might say, you might want to look at the number of new people developing cervical cancer during a 1-month period of time over all of those people at risk during that given period of time, say a month. Prevalence is all of the people with a particular health condition existing in a given population at a given point of time. So again, if you use cervical cancer as an example, it would be the number of people with cervical cancer over all of the people with the disease over time. So that's fairly straightforward, but you do have to learn and memorize the difference. Risk is the other area that seemed to cause some confusion, and risk is the probability that a disease or an unfavorable health condition will develop. The risk is influenced by biology, by environment, by lifestyle, and by even the system of health care. We refer to risk factors as those negative influences that a person may have. So smoking would be a risk factor for developing lung cancer. Epidemiologists study populations at risk. A population at risk is a collection of people among whom a health problem has the possibility of developing because certain influencing factors are present or absent, or because they are modifiable risk factors. Measurement of relative risk ratio statistically compares disease occurrence in the population at risk with the occurrence in people without risk. All right, we'll get to talk about this more in class if you have questions, but just one more time, the most important thing right now for you to remember is the difference between incidence and prevalence. Incidence is a measure used to determine a person's probability of being diagnosed with a disease during a given period of time. So we might look at the incidence of cervical cancer in a given period of time, and we might use that to determine how often we need to do Pap test. We might use that to estimate how many people might get sick at any time. But this specifically refers to newly diagnosed cases. So the incidence rate equals the number of new cases of a disease over the number of persons at risk of the disease. Prevalence, on the other hand, is a measure of disease to determine a person's likelihood of having a disease. It refers to the total number of cases of a disease existing in a population. So it's not just the new cases, but it's all of the cases. Prevalence is equal to the total number of cases of the disease existing in a population over the total number of people in the population. If you have questions, you can ask me in class, you can email me, or you can give me a call. Thank you.